following episode contains conversations that might not be suitable for all audiences. In this episode, we cover topics that might trigger an emotional response. Your well-being is important to us, so if topics like abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, emotional abuse are triggering to you, this might not be the episode for you to listen to, and that's all right. It is vital that we together normalize asking for help. If you're thinking about suicide, or worried about a friend or loved one, or would like the emotional support, the Crisis Hotline is available 24/7 all across the United States. 1-800-273-8255. Again, if you need the help or someone to talk to, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is available 24/7. If you are a victim of domestic violence, or if you are in a situation where you do not feel safe, help is available. You can speak with somebody today. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, available 24/7. 1-800-799-7233, or text START to 88788.
Why are you here?
I'm looking for a great warrior.
So what kind of warrior have you been?
The way of the warrior.
He needed a warrior's mind.
Clearly, this was all planned by warriors of...
Warriors, now is the time.
Hi, this is Julie Bell, and you're listening to the Warrior of Impact podcast. I'm a warrior of perseverance.
And we are live. All right, this is Michael Roland, as always, with Shannon Matthews, and you are listening to the Warrior of Impact podcast. So as an entrepreneur and business owner, I understand that there are natural parameters that we put on the relationships that we develop with other business owners. Even as somebody who considers themselves a master connector, I know how to compartmentalize the relationships that we have throughout our business relationships and really determine what's a business relationship and a true friendship. I've been lucky enough to develop some really strong bonds and relationships over the years. And as a young business owner, especially, I've had a lot of people take me under my wing and really show me the guidance beyond just being a mentor-mentee relationship, but really develop some true friendships. And I think that the reason why I'm saying that is because our guest today is somebody who I truly believe is just one of those ride or die lifelong friends now. And it's interesting how it kind of started because we were just another connection through social media, through the world of business networking. And as if like in this like very serendipitous way, we both came to our own at the same time and really stood tall as warriors. And I think I truly believe...
We didn't even know it. We were,
right.
We didn't know what each other was doing. And then all of a sudden, boom. Yeah.
And I truly believe that we find our tribe and we find the people that we're meant to be with. And what started out as a couple of like messages of support through, different industries, really grew into a very special bond. I oftentimes talk about using the word warrior in place of survivor. And I believe that our guest today, my good friend, Julie, is exactly that definition. She truly encapsulates what it means to replace warrior for survivor. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce my dear friend, the guru of real estate. And she's going to be the board chair for our upcoming project, Operation I'm Possible, my dear friend, Julie Prince Bell.
Hi, it's just Julie Bell. Everybody calls me Julie Bell.
I like the emphasis on it. It has that.
Well, thank you.
It has that.
Well,
the
I
je ne
grew
sais
up
quoi.
here in the Triangle, and my dad had a civil engineering and land survey business. So the name Prince, people do recognize, so that's fine. You can use it.
I just always do. No. I love it.
Yeah. Well, most people just say Julie Bell. But no, Michael, thank you for the kind words. I feel the same way about you. Like Michael said, I don't know how we friended each other on Facebook and kept up with each other. And then all of a sudden, I'm asking him to be on my divorce real estate team as a mindset coach. And from there, we both kind of started growing, and we're both now doing some much bigger things. And to have you, Michael, to run ideas by is always comforting. And I know you have my back. You're going to tell me straight up, this is not a good idea, or you should do this instead, So thank you.
And I think that's truly like the value of the relationships that we should be seeking in as business owners is every relationship should be support an opportunity to kind of mindset, your, mastermind your approach to how you do things. It's the adage of collaboration over competition.
Competition, that's my thing.
I
Yeah.
had
I also think you brought up an important point of, deciding which relationships are benefiting you as well. I've been in a lot of relationships in business where I was giving and giving and not giving anything back, which for some that was okay. But when you start getting busy, you can't have that time suck. You've got to be aligned with the right people who are going to help you move ahead. As everyone knows, people say, you're the best of the 5 people you're closest to. So for me, I've always kept that hard. It's more like 20 people for me, but
Yeah.
I'm a connector too. And but those business relationships, you really got to make sure that they're benefiting you too.
Yeah, I think it's vital. And I think that that is true for relationships in our lives in general.
Absolutely.
I think as a business owner who's learned to navigate healthy business relationships, it has taught me so much about how to navigate the other relationships in my life, because you're right. It's oftentimes it's not fluid. It's not
No,
always this, it's
no.
not always give and take. Sometimes you're the cheerleader, sometimes
Mhm.
you are the quarterback, and sometimes you quite literally are the coach.
And
And
sometimes you need to be picked up off the
that's
field.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. And so I think it's vital that we understand that. I don't think it's always as easy to declare it, because I don't think everybody's in that same headspace to be able to say that. Like you and I, we can have conversations like this all day long and talk about like,
Yeah.
hey, I need you to put your friend hat on, or I need you to put your. Not everybody understands that, but when you find those people, I think that those are the people that are, those are the
You
people that are your
keep.
tribe. Those are the people
Yeah, you keep
exactly.
them by you
Yeah.
closely. Yeah. And you give back to them. I mean, that's a very important point for all of business, I think, is you don't only take, you need to give back to the people who support you.
Yeah. I was watching this video last night, and he said the problem with our current belief system on developing relationships is people are so consumed with trying to like build friendships like they're trying to build wealth. Like you got to know
Yes.
everybody, you got to have all these connections. And he's like, you're trying to make 20 friends, I want 3. He said, with 3 people I could rule a country. With 20 people
Yes.
I'm trying to satisfy 20 people.
So you brought up that's something I was going to cover in the hot seat. The best advice I was ever given was seek first respect and then to be liked. If you're respected, people will like you if you're doing things in an appropriate way. I used to always try to please everyone until I started listening to my heart and my gut, and decided that I had to do what was best for my daughter and me. Even if that made people mad, too bad. This is my life. So now I really do seek that respect first before friendship.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue, kind of to go into our broader topic for the month. Like
Okay.
I mentioned, May being mental health awareness. I think it's really important that we all do our collaborative effort to normalize asking for help.
Getting help.
That we all do our best to support people who are seeking it, and we just end the stigma around mental health. I am very outspoken about the fact that I have dealt with PTSD. I
Me too.
currently, have, ADHD, OCD, the anxiety stuff. And I've got the things that are best handled. I have no shame in saying that I still see a therapist to this
Me either.
day. I have a mindset coach that I work with. And I think that for people that might look down on that, they don't understand that we all need our support system, and not everybody in our lives are able to provide the support that we need. And so for me, having a doctor, having a therapist, having a coach is my way of securing my future and making sure that I'm getting the best help that I deserve. And I know for me, as somebody who has fallen in love with themselves on the other side of dealing with things like PTSD and the belief in myself, I believe that I deserve a hell of a lot more than I was giving myself. And I think that so many people are starting to come to that realization, like, shit, I was selling myself short for so long, and just stop doing that. Let's normalize
Well,
saying I need help, and just, if somebody's going to judge you, they're not your people.
we also need funding for mental health services for sure. I used to be in
Absolutely.
health administration, and it is not funded appropriately. A lot of times, insurance doesn't pay for the meds you need, all of that. I'm very open about my past. I put stuff on Facebook. I've been through a lot. I've had PTSD, depression, anxiety, all of that. I've done the therapist. I've done the meds. And like you said, it's a very lonely experience, because for the most part, unless you've been through it, you don't understand what it's like. We'll talk later, but I was in bed for a couple of years, really just feeling sorry for myself, but it was mental illness. I didn't know it at the time. So I lost a couple of years of my life because no one diagnosed me correctly. They thought I was sad over my divorce, which sure, I was sad, but not that sad. There's a lot of mental illness in my family. It's the medicines, and if you need them, work, therapists work. But no one talks about it. It's like miscarriages. Nobody talks about miscarriages either. Like you said, we've got to end the stigma, because it's a health condition. You're not crazy. It's an actual health condition that you can get help for and feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think
then you can do big things that you can't even think about right now.
yeah.
I suffer from bipolar disorder,
Uh-huh.
and I know that I have people who tell me all the time, they're like, don't you think that you could get over that without medication? Absolutely not. It's
Right.
it's
You
not
need to eat
something.
better and talk.
Yeah.
You need to eat better and walk. That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
and yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, no diet in the world is going to take care of my bipolar disorder. It's a chemical. It's a chemical thing in my brain, and I need actual medication for it. Just like if you were diabetic, just like if you had any other
Anything.
any other disorder that you would physically take medicine for, mentally you need the same thing. And I get
Absolutely.
so sick and tired of hearing people say, I'm not saying that there isn't options out there.
Oh yeah.
I suffer from anxiety, depression. I have bipolar. I have borderline personality disorder. And there is no diet out there that's going to help me. I'm not saying that there aren't ways other than medication to take care of your mental health, but
Not
I
either,
feel
yeah.
like, yeah, I feel
But
like
if you need it,
yeah. If
like you were
need it,
born with bipolar, that's how you were born.
yeah.
I do walk a lot. That helps me. But, when back in the day, walking wasn't going to cut it for me. Now now it does do a lot for me. But when I was in it, no, just getting up and taking a walk every day wasn't going to solve it, just like you said. Yeah.
And I think now that as we move towards people becoming more accepting of mental illness, there's still this stigma though for taking medication for it. And I am also very vocal about, I had a breakdown in 2015. It was really difficult. I lost almost everything. And it's really important for people to understand that it's okay to ask for help. And sometimes you don't even know that you need help. And so people around us, if we see each other struggling, it's okay to say, hey, are you okay? Because
Yes.
like you said, it's such a lonely experience. You feel so, it does something to your brain where you feel almost partitioned off from the rest of the world. It becomes a very lonely and a very scary experience. And so we need to stop feeling like we're not allowed to say to other people, hey, are you doing okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was my mom who kind of noticed it with me, but I hid it for a very long time, and she was the one who really got me to a doctor, thank God. But that was after about 2 years, of struggling by myself and not letting anybody know. And my mom and I are super close. I was even able to hide it from her because I felt that shame,
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think there's like, so there's situational
Yes.
mental health, and there's biochemical makeup. And I
Right.
think that it's important to recognize that because I was listening to somebody, and I wish I remember because it was just such a profound way that they addressed depression. And they said, depression is no different than any other emotion. It lives in us. We all have depression as an outlet. The levels of extreme are based off of how we handle stress or how our body is made up. And it reminded me of the 7 stresses of life. Like, so there's 7 life changes that are bound to happen in our lives. Some people never face any of them. Most people face 1 or 2, but the majority of people that have these big, you want to call it like mental health breakdowns or these moments of stress, like it's important to remember and realize, like, when things start stacking on top of each other, it's the stress. Like, anybody equipped with anything. That's why I think it's important that we don't like compare traumas, because look,
No.
some people's worst thing that they'll ever deal with is a divorce or a loss of a family member or losing their dream job. And that's not to downplay that. And some, it's more extreme, but so I just want to go through the 7 stresses.
So let me back up though. Situational versus biochemical. There's also, if you have an inclination towards the biochemical, a situation can push you over.
It. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah. So the 7 most stressful life changes are death of a spouse, divorce, marital separation, the detention or imprisonment of you or a spouse or a loved one, the death of a close family member, a major injury or illness or surgery, or marriage. So think about
marriage.
I mean, it's a stressor. I mean, it's certainly because these are life changes, right? And so you think about our world. We are 3, single parents who have dealt with either divorce, separation, or some level of, that process with a spouse. Going through the marriage process, the divorce process, the separation process. All of us have dealt with, some form of illness, major illnesses, and I think that that's the key, right? Like, a lot of people don't generally, check just one box. You're going to deal with these throughout life. Death of a close
and a
family
lot of
member.
times when one happens and you're not in a good mental space, it leads to others happening as well. Like you said, the stacking.
Yeah, and then there's these secondary stressors, right? There's the
financial,
the financial burden that comes from losing a job, that comes from the surgery, and I think that is what it comes down to. And I think the bottom line is, on top of the fact that we have this mental health pandemic, we also are not really equipped with how to deal with stress, because society tells us, brush it under the rug.
Go. Be stressed. Kill it. Right.
It's the rose-colored glasses that we broadcast on Instagram. It's the life that we project having. When I started being real, there was people that reached out to me like, "Oh my God, I never knew. Like, I just thought you had this perfect life." I'm like, far from it.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. And I felt like I was doing everybody a disservice, not just myself.
I have heard the most amazing stories though since I've gone public with some things from people that you would never think have been through the real shit. Sorry, but it is, the real stuff. And I mean, somebody you just wouldn't even believe, I know, slept in, public buildings with her kids to get out of a marriage. Somebody had a corporate job, got an injury, and now is just killing it in real estate, but that was never their intentions. It just led to that.
I've been reading a lot about, and I think that this in our current world is something that we deal with also. It's called toxic positivity. Have either one of you heard of that?
Yeah, so I don't know it as that term, but it's actually like one of those aspects of the coaching transformation world that I despise. If it's anything that I'm thinking of, it's like this mindset of like, well, just like think happy thoughts. It's like the equivalent of, well, just smile.
Put
Right.
filters on your pictures and all
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And I do think that Mike and I have talked about this, and I do think that your mindset is kind of the frame for your life. And I do believe in being positive, but I also believe in feeling your feelings. And there's nothing wrong with just having a date where you're just sad. That's good. You know, like Mike said, we all have these things that we go through, someone we've lost in our life, or divorce is really hard. If people have never been through divorce, it's literally like a death. I mean,
You gotta grieve.
It's worse, I think, because you chose it. You know, you chose it or they chose it. Instead, you know, nobody chooses to die.
Yeah. And so people don't understand, like when you get divorced, there's a whole life that you thought you were going to have that you lose. And it's hard to get over that. And so sometimes, yes, we need to have a positive mindset, and we need to have a attitude of gratitude and try to be as positive as possible. But sometimes it's okay to stop and say, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad. And there's no reason that you can't feel those things. Sit down, have a good cry, say, I'm really sad, I really need to get this emotion out. Do that and then move on. And
if you don't feel them, you will never move on. You have to go through it to get through it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
So, what I think would be valuable is if we, just kind of like spend some time allowing you to kind of talk about, like kind of your survivor story.
Okay. Yeah.
Open up, share whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Oh, I'll share anything.
And, cause I think that there's a lot of value in, the situations that you were in, how you were able to build, the courage to leave your situation and really just like the thought process. Cause I think that that's a lot of, there's certainly a path to strength that I know, from getting to know you, but I think it's one of the things that, people a lot of times suffer with in silence. And there's probably somebody listening that's probably dealing
I would love
with
to tell my stories, sure. And anybody who wants to reach out to me for support, please do. I'm always here for people going through what I've been through. So I grew up in Cary, North Carolina, before it was Cary, when it was just a small suburb of Raleigh. And I had the most idyllic childhood. Amazing family, extended family who loved my brother and me very much, still do love us very much. When I got 2 master's degrees, business and policy, and I went to work after seeing my grandma in a nursing home reform and building, helping nonprofits and other people build services in the community to help people stay in their homes instead of having to go to nursing homes. I also worked a lot in policy at the state level. Well, one day, this is where it all started. My daughter got abused in daycare. She was 3, and I went to pick her up early, and I walked in, and I actually saw it myself, physically and verbally. Luckily, another teacher was there. But we decided, my ex and I, that we could not put her back in daycare. And he was making all the money. He was in pharma, and, I wasn't at the state. So I stayed home with her for 8 years. And that is something I never thought I would do. That just wasn't me. I'm grateful for that time because I would have missed so much that I didn't know about if I hadn't stayed home. But that's kind of when my story starts. So I left the aging field and stayed home with her for 8 years. When she turned 9, her dad decided he wanted a divorce. Still not sure why, but we got separated. It was, I'm not going to go into details, but it was a very ugly and difficult process just to get a separation agreement in order. We had to live in the same house for 6 months. Because in North Carolina, if you leave the house or your child, the other one can say you abandoned them and get both. So we finally got separated, and my money, he was very good about hiding the money. And so I was left with about 2 to 3 years worth of money. I hadn't been in the workforce for 8 years. Could not find a job. Nobody would hire me. Plus, if I went back into aging, the pay I was making 37.5. Talking to the legislators and the governor, that definitely wasn't going to pay for my daughter and me. I did get child support and stuff like that, but you get it. So when we got divorced, I fell apart. I really did. It wasn't expected. I had no clues. And I don't even know. It's hard to explain. It's not that you feel defeated, but it is such a long journey to get to the divorce. It's a year here, a year and a day in North Carolina. So you're dealing with that for a year, for 366 days. It's always on the back of your head. Your lawyers are always calling, custody battles, all that kind of stuff. You can't get out of it when you're in it. So after it was over, I was able to breathe, but I still didn't understand. And for me, I seek to understand things so that they don't happen again. That really bothered me for a very long time. I'll be honest with you, when I didn't have my daughter, I would just hang out in bed, for about 2 years, and just try to not feel. It took a therapist to help me get through all the emotions. And once I did, I took back my life. I still had to deal with them. She's now 18, so that's really good. But we still had to deal with each other. We had a co-parent for all those years. And it was something that I still don't understand to this day. And I've had to give up trying to understand. Even for my brain that never stops, I realized if I didn't stop trying to understand, I'd never move forward. I also forgot to mention that before that, we had infertility issues. I had, before Maddie was conceived, our second month trying. After that, 2 years later, we started trying again, and I had 16 miscarriages, 2 failed IVFs. And then we were 2 weeks away from going to get our little boy in Nepal. We were going to adopt, and the government changed. They had a coup and decided to outlaw adoption. So I was done at that point. I just couldn't take any more of the hormones over 3 years, the ups and downs. That's probably the hardest thing I've ever been through. And I was alone. I would see pregnant women. I would see babies. I would start crying. I couldn't be around them. I got PTSD from all of that, from that experience. And so, Michael, I know what you're talking about. PTSD is very difficult to explain, just like divorce, unless you've been through it. Things trigger you. I still get triggered every now and then. And I have to just start breathing and calm myself down. I'm okay. I'm okay. I had that. So after the divorce, like I said, I had a couple of years of money. We actually ended up having to move in with my parents for a year and a half. And that was humbling, truly humbling, because I had built a life with my ex and my daughter that I loved. And all of a sudden I'm moving in with my parents in my 30s, I think I try to see the positives, and for my daughter to get to have that time with my parents and build such a strong relationship with my mom and dad is something that I am forever grateful for. But there's also that stigma of, oh my God, I moved in with my parents in the 30s, whereas so many people do and have, they just don't talk about it. My parents were kind enough to welcome us with open arms. They let me get back on my feet, and my dad pushed me into real estate because, like I said, he had the civil engineering business, and he's like, with your personality, you'd be great. So I got into real estate. And real estate is tough. It takes about a year or two to get going. And thankfully I've surrounded myself with the right people to to do what I want to do and what I need to do for myself. All of these struggles really, I I was also it was also an emotionally abusive and financially abusive relationship in my marriage. So all of these things I've tried to do things in my business or on the side so that I can give back to the people who are going through it now, especially divorce. A lot of, it takes you several years at least to get over it. But I found that usually about at the 5-year mark, most people who've gone through divorce want to start helping other people who are going through it. And for some reason, they seem to be drawn to you. It seems like the universe is telling them you're safe. You're safe now. And people just come to me to talk. I work with people who are trying to get out of abusive marriages. I started a divorce real estate team to make it as uncontentious as possible and make sure it's fair for everyone. I put out my story about infertility to let people know that they're not alone. One day I may write a book about it. And so I've tried to turn everything that has been negative in my life, I've tried to turn it into a positive so that I can help others in some way. So that they don't have to be alone. They don't have to feel alone.
Yeah, and I think that's probably that's one of the most important parts, right? It is a solo journey in a lot of ways in a time
Yes.
where you are being um like you were in a partnership and then you suddenly have to navigate like the dissolution of that partnership on your own. Even with support, there's a lot of things that you have to do by yourself. There's decisions that have to be made.
There
There's
are.
the emotional process. It's a grieving process, like you have to go through, and you have to be allowed the time that it takes. And I think that's important. I remember when I got separated, I had the first phone call I made to my family. I said, if I hear, because there was some contention between, my mom and my ex-wife, and I said, if at any point I hear I told you so, it'll be the last time that I lean on you for support, because that's not what I need right now.
Right.
I
Right.
luckily have the wherewithal to have that kind of boundary to set in place. Most people don't. Most people go through it and they're being ridiculed and judged, and they have to deal with that on top of everything else. And so what that does is you bottle up, and you start looking for solutions to questions that you never had to ask, and you do a lot wrong, and then you spend more time trying to undo those mistakes, and it's just this cycle.
Yes.
And that's why it is such an important part of like finding the people that are going to be there right away, because
You don't
otherwise,
want you don't want the people who are just going to agree with you or who are just going to be like, go after him. That's not the people
yeah,
you want
yeah.
surrounding you. You want the people who you can talk to, and because you're emotional during these times and you need somebody who's not and can bring you back to like, this is reality, right? This is the stuff going on in your head that you're thinking through. Let's think about it another way. Let's think about it this way instead. And if you've got those negative people surrounding you, you're only going to get more and more negative.
Yeah, I think that it's vital that, and very an important reminder that we need to seek it, like whether it's finances, divorce, relationships, business. Seek advice from people who are where you want to be, not people
Yeah.
who are in the same position or worse. It's like these generational things. Like, my parents don't understand what it means to start, run, and grow a business. My parents
Yeah.
also have never been divorced, which that's a good thing.
My parents are in total love with each other. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So they can't give you the advice that you need. So like there's certain people, and like there's friends that I have that have never gone through some of those things. Like that would be like me saying, "Hey, what do you guys think I should do about this surgery coming up on Friday?" Like,
Right.
like it's just like because it's foreign to
I'm not a doctor. I
Right,
don't
exactly.
know.
So I feel like that is just a good reminder. Seek advice from the people that are where you want to be. people who have been divorced for years, who have a healthy relationship with their ex, or who have developed a healthy life for themselves. Like, seek those people. And I think that that's just really something that we don't think about, because in the moment of everything going on, we start grasping for whoever's closest to us, and you're in this pit of despair and you just want to find a way out. And the person that you think is giving you a hand to let you out is really just there to like make you fall back when they let go, and give you that poor advice.
I don't think I could have explained it better. You're right. You will hold on to anybody at that time who is offering you help. And that's a scary thing, because you're not always thinking correctly. That's tough. Like you said, look for those who have made it out.
Yeah, it's a quick way to turn a bad situation worse. I will, from a place of like straight vulnerability. My first relationship out of marriage after my divorce was more toxic than my marriage, because it was very much like, somebody wants me. All right, I'll just deal with this. This is cool. Like, what red flags? I was the typical post-divorce, like, red flags.
You wanted to be in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
You wanted to be in a relationship because everybody does, and that's
absolutely
what you do.
And so
I've
luckily
not.
Yeah,
It's going to take the right person for me.
Right. And luckily, I've been divorced now for, I've been divorced for about 11 years, and I've learned some of those hard lessons of that. But now, like, me and my my daughter's mom, we have an amicable relationship. We can work through things. My daughter knows, that she's very well loved, as I'm sure your daughter does as well. And it's a matter of living life, with as our family, as her family there, and supporting, and it takes a lot of growth and healthy maturity to that. And I think that that's one of the things too, right? Like, we could be the most mature people in the world in other walks of life, and there's just this level of there's times in our lives where you got to grow up quick, and
you usually don't expect them. Like, you don't see them coming, but yeah, you have to grow up.
Anything that requires you to go into a courtroom for a long period of time, you've got to grow up. Like, and that's like in the least harsh way of saying it. It's like, okay, yeah, you didn't plan to do this on your own. We can talk about what you planned and not, and we've got to find ways to transition that.
So, talking about feeling your feelings, you've got to go through them. However, when it comes to the business part of things that are going on in your life, that's when you put it up and you grow up. Like, talking about court, talking about giving myself the meds for infertility, all that stuff. That's when you just suck it up and do it. And you become your best self. You grow and grow during that time, but you still have to let those feelings out. You just hold on to them till that night or the next day,
I think it's important to say, go through them, but like, establish your boundaries to go through them. Like, if it doesn't serve you, that is the time to cut it out. Like, and look, I literally have family tattooed on my chest. It's the closest thing to my heart, but if there's times, like I said, I told my family right away, I don't need this type of support. Declare what you need. And if it doesn't serve you, it doesn't need to be in your life. And if that means taking a break from family, if that means taking a break from the person that was always there, I'm very keen
For example, like when I was going through IVF, my brother had 2 boys. They got pregnant and had 2 boys. I could not do the baby shower for them. I could not go. Yeah. That was my boundary. So my mom did it. I knew that was not healthy for me.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to say something, Shannon?
Yeah, I was just going to say, talking about divorce and your family, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And when I split with my husband, I had a lot of feelings of failure. I had a lot of grief going on. And it's really hard when everyone around you is saying, oh, you're so much better. You got out of this. But they don't understand that you still have this grieving process where, yes, it was a bad relationship. Yes, you got out of it. And everyone around you is telling you how much better off you are. And they're not allowing you to grieve. Like you said, Mike, don't tell me, I told you so. I had that from so many people. We told you that this wasn't going to work. We told you this was a bad situation. We told you.
So what? It happened.
Yeah, I understand. You told me so,
Right.
but I still, and even though mentally you know that you needed to get out of that relationship, your heart is still saying, you wanted it to work. And of course, domestic violence is just a whole nother topic that we
I was
could,
going to bring it up.
yeah, it's just a
So,
whole,
domestic violence and emotional abuse, people don't realize how good the other person is at changing your mind.
right.
And I don't want to badmouth too much, but I was a different person when we got divorced than I was when we got pregnant with Maddie. Um, every bit of myself was gone. And I've had to find myself again, which I have, and I found myself in an even better way. But for people who haven't gone through it, they don't understand what exactly another person can do to you over time and make you feel and really make you think you are that way, when it's not true. So, abusers, I think they do. Most of them do know what they're doing, especially with emotional abuse. But to explain that to somebody that, look, for 8-10 years, I was basically reprogrammed,
Yeah.
and I had to unprogram myself back over time, which took therapists, which took myself, which took doing things. I mean, it takes a long time to get over abusive situations. It's not just like, oh, good, I'm out. You still
I,
have that person in your head. They're still in there, you know?
I spoke to a therapist when I had my breakdown. I spoke to a therapist and she said, there's been so many years that people put bad stuff into you. She said, you're not going to get it out in one day. It's going to take a long time.
Right.
You were basically, like you said, reprogrammed. When you have somebody in your head every single day telling you all these terrible bad things, and people don't understand how that wears you down, and like you said, how that changes you over time. And the other thing is, just talking about domestic violence, um, mental illness, people say, I would never have known. You're such a strong person. You're such a strong woman. And there's all this shame that comes with with having a mental health issue and with being in a domestic abuse situation, whether it's physical, sexual, emotional, financial.
Financial.
Yeah, and they come to you and they're like, how could you ever have let yourself get in that position? How could you have ever let yourself get there? And you're like, you can't explain it unless you've been through it.
And it took years to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did take years to get there. It's not an overnight thing. It's not like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll put up with this. That's not how it goes, right?
It's not like you get married and the very next day. It's very subtle. It's
Yes.
something that, like you said, abusers know how to control their victims, and it starts very subtly. Yeah. And before you know it, you're in over your head and you don't know how to get out. And there's that shame of saying, hey, this is happening to me. And then people say, oh, how could that happen to you? You're such a strong person. Well, it doesn't matter, because the person that you're with knows exactly how to manipulate you, how to gaslight you. And before you know it, you're in this situation that you don't know how to get out of.
Well, I got isolated. That was a big thing. Lots of things were done so that my family and I had issues where I was, like I said earlier, was super close. I did not have any friends left. Didn't like my friends. So I became very isolated for years and years, just really depending on him for everything, which, as you know, that also affects your self-esteem, how you feel. Because if you're only hearing something from one person and you don't have anybody around to tell you differently, or to tell you that, look, this isn't a good thing, you don't know it until it gets to a really bad point.
So I think one of the things that this is reminding me of too to talk about is So there's a process that people need to go to before they're even ready to start transitioning into becoming a warrior. It's a 3-step process that I've talked about on the show that I think is important, especially through this, because there is a bridge. There is a time where we pick up by the bootstraps and start doing the work and realize, hey, we're made for more. I talk about it a lot. Like, I don't want people to have the consolation life. I don't want us to settle for the life after trauma. I don't want us to settle for a life after divorce. I want us to be able to stand tall and be like, no, I deserve the life that I always deserved. And I want the dreamer at 8 years old to come back into my life, and we're going to make that happen now. And so before we can do that, the first step, which is what we're kind of talking about here, is it is the step of the victim. And the reason why I say that, and I think it's a little odd when I talk about this, but people get it. When you're victimized, it's important that you recognize that. There are times in our lives where we are an outright victim. There's a difference between being a victim and living in victimhood, though. That's oftentimes what staggers us and keeps us entrapped. When you are being abused, that is one of the key elements. Is it's under the veil of you don't realize you're being that you are a legit victim in it, because you just think whatever story is being told, whether it's being told to you or you're being told
it
to
progresses.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's important that we recognize when we were a victim and acknowledge that, because before we can acknowledge it, we can't start the process of healing. And then the second step is that we need to seek from a place of learning. We need to educate ourselves on what a healthy life looks like, what a healthy relationship looks like, what our life can look like outside of that. And then the third step is realizing that the strength that we're seeking is already inside of us.
Right.
And some people can go. I've worked with people that we can go through that 3 steps, because it's the first thing I generally work with my coaching clients on, is really making sure that they've kind of cleared that path of enlightenment before they're even start on mindset. Because if I'm helping you build a foundation of mindset, I can't help you build a foundation on sand. You're in real estate, you know that.
Yeah.
If we build a foundation on sand, you're going to drift away. And oftentimes that's what we're trying to do. And we wonder why we have this cycle. Oh, I'm doing so well, because you haven't cleared the foundation. You have to create a solid foundation.
People try to get a quick fix to how they're feeling. Some people go to drugs, some people go to sex, some people do, but eat, anything just to get rid of those feelings. And like you said, until you deal with them, you're not going to become yourself again. And that's part of what makes you a person, a warrior, in my mind, is that they have the courage to go through all of that and unpack it, and feel what it feels like and get through it, instead of just holding it in, going on with life and never doing anything about it. Yeah.
I say this a lot. The only shortcut is doing it right the first time. Because if you don't do it right the first time, it'll just be longer. So doing it right the first time is the shortcut.
Right. But
otherwise, you're going to be redoing it every couple of years, every time you see the cycle. And
But if you do it wrong, there's no shame in saying, "Hey, I did it wrong.
No, absolutely.
I'm going to do it again." Because there are a lot of us who swing and miss, right?
Or we don't even know we're doing it wrong until it smacks us in the face years later.
Yep,
I went through 3 counselors with no help. Then I finally found the one who I still see her, just because even though I'm doing great, she helps keep me great and helps keep my mind focused. So I mean, it's been 8 years. I still see her. But I mean, if I had given up on counseling after the first 1 or 2, I'm not sure I'd be here right now. I may still be living in my parents' house. Who knows?
And that's another important thing to talk about when we discuss mental health, is finding the right fit for you. Just like in business, just like in life, not the first time you go into that counselor's office or that therapist's office, if you sit down, you don't feel a connection, there is no shame in saying, you know what, we're not jiving with each other. We're not aligning with each other. And I think that you have to learn to do that in all aspects of your life, not just with a therapist. You can do that with people who you meet. You can do it with your clients. Hey, we're not a good fit. And there's no shame and there's nothing wrong with saying that and knowing that. And I think a lot of times when I know I went through this with my daughter, when we started shopping around for a therapist, right? The first one didn't work. And she was like, this isn't going to work for me. No, let's try someone else. We'll keep trying until we find the right fit. When you walk into the dress shop, the first dress you put on isn't always the one that you buy. So you literally have to try working with different people. And so I think that that's an important thing we don't talk enough about when we talk about mental illness also, is that you're who you end up using. It's okay for you to go through a couple of them before you find the right one.
Right. Doctors too, if they don't take it seriously, leave. If you're telling them you're sad, you can't get out of bed, you're anxious, and they don't take it seriously, just go and find someone else. But bringing that back to business, it's something you need to do in business. I fired my first client a couple months ago ever. And it was because the boundaries weren't there and I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable with things that he had done and lied to me about. And it wasn't worth the money to me, honestly, to be in that type of relationship with the client, where I couldn't trust them. That was a hard decision for me to make, to fire a client, since I'd never done it before, but it was very freeing. And part of that comes from my divorce and getting through that and being strong enough to say, all right, this situation in my gut and in my heart does not feel okay. I want out of this, and just doing it. I trust my gut and my heart a lot. So it's not just health wise, it's business, like you said, it's relationships with people in your life, with your friends and family, all of that. Everything we're talking about crosses over every sector of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of shift a little bit in that direction and talk about business. Um, I think that there's a lot of things that when you allow yourself to let the world bleed, because I think as a true business owner, you're not just entrepreneur over here, running this business over here. You're not parent, you're not friend. You're, when you really are doing something that is in your true path of purpose, you're you. And so I think that naturally it all becomes everything. Like I'm not a warrior just when I'm meeting with coaching clients. Like, what would that do for that? Like I've talked about it a lot. Like I pride myself on the fact that I walk the walk in every aspect of my life. And I think that when we all are walking our purpose in every aspect of our lives, we can see much more strength than trying to say, well, this is who I am over here. This is who I am over here. Living into yourself. And so let's talk about that a little bit as
Got a good story. Yeah. So my first year in real estate, I sold 3 houses. One was given to me when somebody left. I had a great mentor where I was at, and he told me, he said, Julie, you're trying to sell. He's like, you're just trying to get the signature. He's like, you need to be yourself. And I sold 60 homes the next year. I am nothing but myself, because I feel like I've earned the right to be myself, honestly, after all I've been through. If people like it, great. If not, they can work with somebody else. But just those few words, just be yourself, changed everything for me, not only in business, but in life. Dating, I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not. And it's amazing what being genuine can bring into your world. And I really feel like if you open yourself up and look for opportunities, they're going to align with you when you're being yourself and you are serious about that, serious about trying to figure out what fits into your life and what shouldn't.
We talk a lot about, Mike and I, about being authentic,
Yes.
especially in business, being true to yourself, being yourself, being authentic, and that will bring the right people to you, whether it's in your personal life or your business life. And I think that you also agree, just be yourself.
Absolutely. I'm a connector too, like Mike. And it's only happened because I'm extremely real with people. Like I'll tell them my story, and I've had so many people just open right up to me after I've told them my story, and it creates bonds. When you're sharing that type of thing with each other. I think Michael and I, we bonded a lot because of our shared experiences, things like that. And if people don't get you and don't get it, they're not those people that you want around you, right? That we talked about surrounding yourself with the right people. If they don't like the real you, you don't want them.
Yeah, wouldn't
Right,
you
you're just
agree?
wasting everybody's time.
What did you?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Shannon.
said you're just wasting everybody's time.
Exactly.
And wouldn't you agree that you become a stronger connector when you get to a place, and I think this comes from confidence and boundaries, where you are able to say no more?
Mm.
Yes.
Like I recognize, like, there's things that I'm like,
Yes.
no, I can't do that. No, that's not in alignment. Like, no, that doesn't serve me. It's like one of my favorite things to say because that's a gift to me from me.
Yeah.
Well, I used to be a yes person. I do anything anybody ever needed me to. Now I'm very protective of my time.
Yeah.
I'm protective of my energy. I'm protective of, is this an actual project that's going to succeed, or am I just throwing, time, money, anything into it to try to make it succeed? Yeah, for sure. You got to look at it all.
Which I think that makes it much more valuable when you then do dedicate your time and energy to somebody, and especially like, when people know that about you, like, well, this person doesn't say yes to many things. So when they say yes, value that, respect that, because that's part of their boundary.
Right.
And learning to say no is so empowering. Talk about learning, especially from a mental health standpoint, from all the stuff that we've talked about, being able to say no is very powerful. And people don't understand exactly how it starts to change your whole mindset to be able to say, no, I'm sorry, this isn't for me. Like Mike said, this doesn't serve me. And we need to move on.
Yeah. I mean, we're already.
Well, I've been dealing with this the past month, 2 months with a lot of several things. And I've told people I had to really grow up. But 4 years ago, I never would have stood up for myself or people, my people. And I've had to this past month, big time. And I was not afraid. Back before, I would have been afraid to say no to my ex. I would never have said no. Now I'm very careful when I do say yes.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize the fact that, like, all three of us are raising young women. And that is
Yes.
a very important thing, especially in today's age, to advocate and let our daughters know that no is like no is a sentence.
Yep.
Yes.
Like there's nothing else needed. You can say no, walk away, and that's it. And I think it's important to recognize that. And by us demonstrating that, it makes them it maybe gives them that veil of confidence to know that, because I know that there's certain things that, as a man raising a little girl, there's things that I'm not going to always be able to understand and equip, but I'll be damned if I don't provide the best solutions possible and provide her with the strongest tactics and understanding for how to handle those situations, and then hopefully develop the relationship over time that she can come to me when those things come up that I might not have already been able to equip her with.
She will. I can take her on too if you need me to. If she needs
I've got
a
a
girl
lot
to
of
talk
very
to.
powerful women in my life that I know.
What?
Can
I'm just offering.
Yes,
She's a
absolutely.
cutie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is a great way to segue into our hot seat questions. These are the 3 questions that we ask all of our guests. Our podcast is all about trying to uncover what it means to be a warrior. And so we try to make sure that we get the answers from all of our guests, so that way we don't just rely on our provided answers. So the first question is, how do you define what it means to be a warrior?
I've been thinking through that. I think that's personal for everyone. They have to come up with that on their own. But for me, it was never stopping, never giving up and persevering. I fell down several times, but I didn't stay down. I got back up, and I'm making the world a better place because of what I've been through. So for me, it's taking what I had to endure and trying to help people who are going through it not have to go through as much as I did, not be alone.
I think that perseverance is key. So something that I don't talk about a lot is a lot of the ways that I stay in shape is I box. I got into boxing a number of years back, and I've always loved boxing. I grew up during the tail end of like the Mike Tyson era, and seeing all these great boxers in the 90s, Oscar De La Hoya, and and then like even going back and looking at some of the classics like Sugar Ray and all these guys. That was like my path, and I loved watching boxing because I think that those they are modern gladiators in a lot of ways. And so what people glorify great boxers as, they're the heavy hitters, they're the guys that knock out. But what I've learned in studying and training with boxing is the real intelligence comes from learning what to do when you're up against the ropes. It's learning how to duck out of a punch in the corner. And most importantly, what I think about is perseverance is when you get knocked down, it's learning when to take the count to 8 or 9 and getting the rest. It's you've got to just break the 10 count. That's all you have to do. And what that exactly. And I know that I've got to get up. I'm going to get up. But I'm going to take this.
Not right now.
I'm going to wait till the 8 count, wait till the 9 count, get my breath, and then get back up. And to me, that is that level of perseverance. It's, it's getting knocked down 8 times, getting up 9. It's that same mentality that I love about, the strength that we find when we find it, because giving up is not part of the vocabulary.
I love that because I tried to fix things too fast at times, right? I did not stay down for the count. And it only did a disservice to me, to my daughter, to anyone involved. You got to get your brain straight, especially when you're dealing with big topics.
And I think that comes in the form of grace and understanding and really just being kind to yourself, because the solutions aren't going to be there any quicker if you try to make them up.
No.
And worrying does no good. Like, worrying, no solution has come from worrying. Like that's just not the emotional, value that we need to put on that. It's let me spend this time to figure out how I can love myself better, so that way I can navigate through this better. That's
knowing when to rest is so important. Knowing that you need to take some time for yourself and you need to rest, because we do this, especially as single parents, right? As business owners, single parents, we have so much stuff that we have to get through in a day that sometimes it's important to just say, you know what, for today, for right now, I just need to rest.
So with the rest comes a clear head and then strength. Yeah. Gosh, there was a quote I was going to say. I'll think of it later, but.
Yeah, I think that, so I say like, never give up, but sometimes the solution, it's okay to quit things. Like if you're working in a business for 3 years that is not serving you, it's not the right business for you. And stop trying to appease everybody else. Find something better. If you're in a relationship that's not serving you, quit that relationship. Find somebody better. Like, and it's not even find someone better as much as find a way of your life to live better for you, but ending, I was so afraid of the ending. I'm a great starter. And, then I've worked on being a better follow through person. And like the end was always this like evil thing for me. I'm like, no, you want to see things through to fruition. I want to be able to grow the business to the point where I can sell it, grow it, scale it. And we put these parameters on ourselves that like, it's got to look pretty, no, that's not real. You want to be real with people, like, hey, why did you stop doing this thing? It wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. I started a business to enjoy my life. I wasn't enjoying it anymore, so I changed it up.
Yeah, we're the only ones who are going to control our lives. Nobody, what I realized is that nobody is going to get me through life, right? I'm not a child anymore. This is my life and my daughter's life, and it's up to me to make it what I want it to be. No one else is going to do it for me.
Absolutely.
I think that because things end, again, talking about shame, somehow when things end, it's a failure and that there's shame attached to that. But like Mike said, sometimes you have to recognize that something is not working for you. And again, that saying no, empowering yourself, knowing when you need to change gears and get to something else. And so a lot of people will say, again, I told you that wasn't going to work. I told you so. I told you that that was a mistake. But we need that learning experience. And sometimes what other people say, oh, is not going to work, does work. And so it's okay to have a hope. It's okay to hope and to put out your best attempt at something, but then there's no shame in saying, you know what, I was wrong. It didn't work. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
And I've developed a
It's
really
called pivot.
the pivot.
Right, the pivot.
Yes. I've developed a very healthy relationship with failure because I really believe that like the only way you truly fail is if you just don't keep going forward in a path. Like if you completely just like give up and succumb to the idea that you are a failure, or the story you tell yourself is just like this big roadblock, because there are lessons to learn. There are those pivotal moments of the pivots where we say, hey, this wasn't where I need to be, but this opportunity is right here. And I think that's the thing, that we don't recognize an opportunity when we're not aware of because I think we get so married to our ideas that we can't imagine anything else, being possible for us. And when we start shedding that doubt of, we're capable of more, then we can make those transitions a lot quicker. And then it's not giving up. It's not, quitting or failing. It's transition.
And I think we have to learn too that just because something fails, whether it's our marriage, whether it's our business, whatever it is, just because it fails, we're not a failure.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, life is not easy. There's not a roadmap for life. At least mine, I don't have a roadmap for my life.
Me either.
I would love one if somebody had it, but there is no roadmap. You're making it up as you go. And there are times when you fail. Like my first year in real estate, I could have easily just walked away. But instead I sought out advice from people I trusted and who knew me, and could see what I was doing wrong because I couldn't see it. Now, say another year went by and I still only sold 3 houses, I probably would have walked away. That would have been a clear sign to me that, look, I've done everything I could do. This isn't the job for me. But it's you're making it up as you go, and you have to be gentle on yourself the entire time. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Life has a way of putting the opportunities in front of you that you need, as long as you're open to them and looking for them. So even, when you're down, just keep your eyes open and see what could be in front of you. Cause life is really, for me at least, it's been a roller coaster ride, but God or the universe, whatever, has taken care of me.
Yep. I think that, and this is how I look at it. The price of the life that you want is the price that you have. Or sorry, the price for the life that you want is the life that you have. But most people are quick to give up everything they want for what they want right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's staying the course. So are you willing to give up the habits? Are you willing to give up the things that don't serve you, that are maybe your creature comforts, for everything you want, because it doesn't look like everybody else, because it doesn't feel like everybody else, but in your heart, that's, I think we all know that one thing that we could change in our life that will make everything, we know the thing in our life that's causing us chaos. We know the thing that's causing us heartache and pain, but we bury it down to the point where maybe we forget that we recognize it, but it's the hindsight oh, I knew when we first went out that they were ... or I knew when I showed up for work that first day, or, the first year of work when I didn't get, the commissions, or it's those things that we can recognize. It's the clues. Follow the clues and your emotions will guide the way. And then stay in communication with yourself.
Listen to your heart and your
Yeah,
gut.
absolutely.
If something doesn't feel right, it's not right.
Yep.
And we have to learn to let go of unhealthy coping mechanisms. I think that, Mike, a lot of what you were just talking about is people, and Julie talked about it earlier, whatever it is, alcohol, eating, all these different things that we learn to try to cope with everything in our life that's going wrong. We have to learn, and whether that's through therapy or through introspection, whatever it is, to move forward, we have to let go of those things, which makes us uncomfortable, right? It makes life a little less accommodating. But you have to learn, like Mike said, if you want to move forward and you want to progress, you have to let some of those things go, and it can be really, really hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so moving into our second question, how have you demonstrated this definition of being a warrior in your life? So demonstrating that perseverance. And I think that you have that's kind of what we've been talking about, but give us kind of that like slay the day perseverance story.
So I developed a divorce team, like I said, for real estate. It's the only one of its kind that we can find. I'm not going to get into it here because we're still kind of testing it. But after I learned that, I probably lost out on a ton of money on the house that we had because the realtor didn't really know what they were doing. And so I want to make sure that doesn't happen to others. We do it in a fair process to make sure that everyone has the most amount of money that they can take into their new life, start their new life with. I don't know why, but a lot of women who are being abused are drawn to me, and I personally help them figure their way out, whether it's through lawyers, with custody, helping them get jobs, to prepare housing, whatever needs to be done. It's just something that I don't love doing it because, I don't want anyone to be going through that, but it's fulfilling to me. And then I also, as much as I can, talk about abusive relationships and infertility as well, so that people know they're not alone. Like I've said all along, I've just tried to turn everything negative that has happened to me into a positive. It not only helps others, but it helps me. It helps me. I've healed from almost all of it, but every now and then, especially when I'm working with somebody in an abusive relationship, comes back. But every time I do it, it makes me stronger. And it gets me to a point where, like I said, I'm not afraid to say no anymore, and it's because I've helped these people. I've used my experience to do good.
When you
I hope good.
When you work with women who are going through divorce, do you ever run across women who are afraid to ask for what they deserve or what they need?
Of course.
Because they don't want to be viewed as like a gold digger or being greedy.
It's more that in a lot of situations, the man is making most of the money, or the wife has been a stay-at-home mom. And the man is saying, look, you don't deserve all of this. I'm the one who worked for it, not you. And I try to help them realize that, look, you worked just as hard, if not harder, when you stayed at home with that baby and raised that baby. And, when they were on trips, you took care of everything. You ran that. I mean, everything that they did to run the household while their partner was working. And it could go both ways. The man could be saying this as well. Look, a woman could be saying, you don't deserve anything because you stayed at home with the kids. But it's usually more of the other partner saying, you don't deserve this because you didn't work for it. That's been my experience. Yeah. And of course, in North Carolina, that's not the law. So it doesn't matter what they say.
Right.
But a lot of people do believe them.
And so, what is the one piece of advice that you would give somebody to help them persevere?
Someone told me this recently, that if you are in a bad situation or overwhelmed with the stacks of things piling up, you got to stay in the present. Just this has helped me tremendously this year. Just tell yourself, I'm okay right now. Right now, I'm okay. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm choosing to stay right here and right now I'm okay. And that has helped me really with anxiety, with making sure that I was making good decisions business wise, with my daughter, any kind of decisions. It's like, okay, I'm okay right now. I don't have to deal with the future yet because it's not here. I may need to plan, but it doesn't have to consume me. Once you let something start consuming you, I think that's when it wins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whew. We've had
Heavy podcast.
yeah, we've had quite the journey, right? Yeah. So one of the things I like to do at the end of our episodes is allow all of our guests some time. You'll have a chance to promote yourself, talk about how people can find you and things. But if there's things that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to, maybe maybe in anticipation of us talking or preparing for the podcast, there's something that came up that you're like, I want to make sure I cover this, and we just didn't get to it in our natural conversation. I like to leave a little space at the end for all of our guests to be able to talk about anything that's important to them or that they wanted to say. So that way, there's no hindsight of, wow, I wish I would have talked about this, which, we know is always going to be present.
Let me think. I guess, after going through this discussion today, I just want to encourage people not to be scared of sharing what they're going through and what they've been through, because they have no idea how much it's going to help someone else to hear that they went through it and survived and got through it and became a better person from it. I am not the person I was before I got married. I'm not the person I was when I was married. I'm not the person I was after our divorce. Whole new person, which I'm very proud of. I also think that you have to be so cautious about who you let in your head when you're going through things. Like we talked about, are they really there to help you, or are they there just to say, told you so, or to tell you, to be negative, tell you to go after things, go after the person, if you're going to have negative people around you, you're going to become even more negative, which is not what is going to help you in any way in the future. I try to stay positive. It's hard. We can all sit here and say, oh, mental health is, this needs to be done. This is how I've done it. But when you're going through it, it is so hard. So even people listening to this who are not okay right now, you need to know that we're coming at it from a point years down the line. I think most of, the three of us have at least come to terms with things that have happened, and we're okay if not healed from them. I feel like I've healed. But if you're going through it, just know that it's not overnight and it will happen. It'll happen for you, just like it did for Mike and Cassie. You just have to be patient and decide who you want to be.
Yeah. And that's key too. Decide who you want to be, and don't let
Right,
anyone
who
else
you
determine
want
it
to
for you.
be.
Yes, absolutely.
Not who someone else wants you to be. Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And only then, when you have decided who you want to be and become that person, can you go out and do the things like you're doing. Some of the real estate things I'm doing that people don't know about, when you start speaking your truth and living, taking what other people have done to you and making sure you don't do that to others is a big thing too, I think. anything that has hurt you is probably going to hurt someone else. So I always try to find lessons in that as well. I think just, moving forward is the most important thing in life. If you start standing still, you're going to get stagnant and you're never going to get to that end goal where you want to be. Move forward, make mistakes, fall down, find the people who are going to help you up, find those people who are going to support you, and make it happen.
And I think that's just, that's good sound advice. I mean,
It's advice though, but like what I was saying is, if you're in it right now, it's hard to hear this and get it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to tell people that, if you're listening to this, you're going through it and you're like, yeah, whatever, we're not trying to tell you what to do. This is just our journey. Your journey may be very different, right? But the end goal is the same, is to become the version of you that you want to be. And I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I believe everyone is entitled to be able to experience their experience.
Yes.
Absolutely. So how can people find you online? Where can they work with you? How can they work with you?
All right. So I do all kinds of real estate. I do residential, luxury, investments, commercial, and land. I am LaQuesta Bryant, and I recently joined Real Brokerage. We're the first 2 agents in the Triangle. They're in 43 states, Charlotte and the Triad, and now the Triangle. So I'm getting my new website up. I'm kind of in transition right now, rebranding all of that. But my phone number is 919-412-0185. And I'm sure, Michael, you'll put this up.
It will be in the description.
No,
yep,
okay.
Sure.
And then he'll put my email up as well. I'm on Facebook. I put everything on Facebook. I'm a realtor. That's what we do. And I'm Julie Prince Bell on there. I think that my biggest strength is, and this is my motto, is building close relationships while closely protecting your assets. So I'm a people person. I love people. And most of my clients have become like family to me over the years. And it's been a truly humbling and amazing thing. But then, when it comes to the money, I turn my brain on and it gets very serious, with masters of business, masters of policy, and make sure that everything is buttoned down. So I think, bringing the business side to the real estate industry has been a good thing for me. Also, my connections have been great, but I truly love real estate. I really, really do, all aspects of it. And I'm just starting I still do residential. That's my main thing. Referrals are always appreciated, but we're also starting to work on some bigger real estate projects. And that's where I'm hoping to head.
Excellent. And I know I teased it. You'll be chairing the board of our Operation I'm Possible, which we'll be releasing some more information about coming soon. But I am so pleased to have you work with me on that. I think that it's really our first opportunity to really dive into a big project together. And I just know that it's going to be that much more successful by having you a part of that. And then, of course, like we've, started to work together on the divorce team stuff. And, so you'll be hearing a lot more about Julie and I's escapades and all the wonderful things that we're going to be doing. Please reach out to her if you have any questions regarding, real estate, or if you want to learn more about, support going through your own survivor story. She's just a great individual. She's a wonderful person, and I think that she's one of those friends to all, and I think that's just what I love about you.
Thank you.
And I think that
listen, this is a big thing for me. If you're in an abusive situation right now and you don't have anybody, I'm here. Just contact me and I will help you.
Hey Warriors, it's Michael, and I want to thank you for listening to the Warrior of Impact podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to us on your favorite streaming platforms and leave us a 5-star review. For more information, check out warriorofimpact.com. It is vital that we together normalize asking for help. If you're thinking about suicide or worried about a friend or loved one, or would like the emotional support, the Crisis Hotline is available 24/7 all across the United States. 1-800-273-8255. Again, if you need the help or someone to talk to, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is available 24/7. If you are a victim of domestic violence, or if you are in a situation where you do not feel safe, help is available. You can speak with somebody today. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, available 24/7. 1-800-799-7233, or text START to 88788.